2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, and welcome into the NESN Soccer Podcast. I'm sure you're surprised to hear my voice. It's Courtney Cox here with Marcus Omard and Mr. Mark DiBenedetto.
Hello.
I'm here kind of to help these guys go along, to make sure that we keep things moving.
Yeah.
So a big day in the soccer world. The Champions League draw took place around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And let's jump right into it, you guys. Initial reactions. I'm sure you'll make fun of, the pomp and circumstance of it all, but initial reactions to the draw.
I'm feeling good about it. It's exciting. I asked you to host this one because whenever there's a big to-do, like the Champions League draw or the World Cup draw or something like that, we like to mark it as a special occasion by doing something special. So that's your role. And
I'm special. You should call me special.
Yes. And the I don't know if the draw itself, the ceremony was just blah. They kept throwing in the awards in between. They did the draw throughout the ceremony instead of at one time, which was kind of annoying because I didn't want to, I just wanted to get it out and not wait for it. But yeah, looks good. I'm excited for the matchups and the games, and I think it starts in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So yeah.
Summer is over.
Yeah, it's over.
I didn't realize David Beckham was up for an award.
Yeah, he got some Lifetime Achievement Award for being awesome.
It's just kind of, I've never even heard of the UEFA President's Award.
I think they just invented it.
So it's just
a year or two ago, or maybe this year or last year. Yeah. This might have been the first year they did it. So, they try and add showbiz to these things, and who better than David Beckham?
Posh Spice must be so proud.
Yeah.
Of course. And are you surprised that Luka Modric won Player of the Year?
I was a little bit.
Me too.
Because I think Ronaldo's going to win the Ballon d'Or again and the FIFA Best Player. The UEFA award isn't really held in such high esteem as the other ones.
Right.
The ones that decide who the best players are. Even though this is for the Champions League's best player, but it had to go to somebody from Real Madrid because they won again. And I think Modric reaching the World Cup final with Croatia was that probably tipped the balance in his favor.
Yeah. All right. So were those your only thoughts, Mark, of the show?
Yeah, I will.
As a whole, that's it. David Beckham.
Yes. We're talking about the spectacle here. Yeah.
As far as the spectacle, I kind of purposely tried to just follow the groups being released on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because that tells me everything I need to know without all the things I don't want to see.
But then you had to spend an hour on Twitter waiting for them to go through.
And that's lame.
It was.
Don't you like the excitement of it all?
Yeah, just get it all out there. And
I guess it's better for some people.
Okay, well, beg to differ. All right, let's talk about actual groups. In your opinion, I want to hear from both of you, your group of death or the weakest group of potential contenders. There's always one. There's always an extremely strong group and an extremely weak group of death.
I'm going to go with Group C. PSG, Napoli, Liverpool, and Red Star Belgrade. Liverpool was a finalist last year, and who knows, they could win it this year. PSG, their whole reason for existing is to win this competition. Napoli's got a good team and a good manager, and who knows what they'll do. And Red Star Belgrade, they're fish food, for lack of a better word. They're just there. They're going to be the whipping boys of the group. Yeah, I would say either Group C. Group H is good with Juventus, Manchester United, Valencia, Young Boys. Juventus obviously stronger than Napoli. Manchester United maybe on par with Liverpool, maybe not. But Valencia cannot match with PSG. And Young Boys are back in the Champions League for the first time in 20-something years. So fish food.
My group of death is Group B.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, because
jeez.
Maybe I'm giving Inter a little too much credit.
That's exactly what you're doing.
But I don't look at this group and think to myself that Inter can't compete with the other teams in the group, maybe besides Barcelona, but really Tottenham is very good, PSV Eindhoven is very good, and Inter is very good, and they'll all be tough away matches for Barcelona, who I don't think will run away with this group. I do think that they'll win the group, but it'll be a lot tighter and a lot closer than people think. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham didn't advance out of the group and it went to Eindhoven or Inter.
You wouldn't be surprised?
I wouldn't
if
be
PSV?
surprised.
Ooh.
No.
Wow.
And I mean, PSV Eindhoven is probably going to put up a really good fight in this group, and their home matches will be very difficult for other teams to compete in.
They will. I'll be following them. They have Mexicans on their team, some Mexican internationals. They have Chucky Lozano, who is he was one of the stars, Mexico stars of the World Cup. And they just signed Jesus Gallardo from Pachuca, who was Chucky's former teammate in Mexico. So they're going to get a lot of attention in this country. Inter Milan, I'm just not. They've had so many false dawns in the last 5 years. I'm tired of that.
I don't remember the last time they were in the Champions League competition though.
I think it was 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, so they're back. They're ready to compete again. Here we go.
Yeah, but
Forza Italia.
All right, well, you guys don't agree on that side, but
Yeah.
let's go complete opposite side. Mark, let's start with you.
the weakest group?
Marcus, you got one?
Can I go? Yeah, Group D.
Group D?
Group D. Lokomotiv Moscow, Porto, Schalke, Galatasaray. That's a joke. Group D. Yeah, Group D. Absolute joke.
Who do you think will win that group?
I don't even know. Porto? Schalke might actually. And we might have an American winning, Weston McKennie, who plays for Schalke. He's a 19-year-old kid from Dallas, in or around the starting lineup all last season. They had a good team. They finished second in Germany last year. But, I mean, yeah, they're going to be celebrating because had they fallen into a different group, Dortmund, yeah, they wouldn't be. Group D is a joke.
So side note, if you were part of that club and you watched the draw happen, you're jumping out of your seat excited.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Galatasaray, I don't know much about their squad at the moment. I know they're, Turkish champions, but they're not as good as they have been in previous years. I would say Porto. Porto's always in the Champions League, and they're experienced. They know what they're doing. Know how to put teams together, buy and sell players, replace them. So their operation is tight. But I'll go with Schalke and then Porto runner-up.
I think this is a great example of just how absurd this. How can you possibly end up with some of the groups that have been formed, and then Group D forms itself?
I don't know.
Like there should be some sort of system in place to make sure that this group doesn't happen, because it's just not good enough.
If I'm Napoli or Liverpool,
I'm
annoyed. Bayern Munich's group is fairly weak. Man City's group, that's no good.
The thing is, if you're Bayern Munich or Man City as one of the top clubs in the world, you make that group acceptable.
Yeah.
But Group D doesn't have anything like that.
No.
To make it it's just a bunch of, at best, a second-tier team. And
second and third tier.
Right.
Lokomotiv Moscow, I didn't know they were in the Champions League until today. I was disgusted when I don't know, we were sitting nearby each other when the draw was happening, and I made that sound.
What sound? Okay. So it seems like you guys agree on the weakest group.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page there.
All right, let's leave groups. Let's go into individual games. Can't miss games. There's always a few.
Yeah.
How many in total do you think for this one that you can't miss? Mark it on your calendar.
2, 4, 6 of them.
Ooh.
2 matchups per. Barcelona versus Tottenham. PSG versus Liverpool. Oh my, that's got to be the matchup of the group stage. And then Manchester United versus Juventus. Cristiano Ronaldo goes back to his old club again.
Old club.
Yeah, this time to, I can't knock them out. Maybe he could knock them out, but Cristiano Ronaldo is beloved at Manchester United, and he loves Manchester United. So him going there with his new team, Juventus, that'll be exciting.
What a coincidence that they ended up in the same group. I never would have thought.
Didn't you call that yesterday? Or something
Ooh,
like
is this
that?
a little bit of shade thrown about maybe fixing things, Mark? You have a little smirk on your face. For those of you listening,
I would
can't
never
see him.
say such a thing. Actually, I think I've said
I think that was
several
shade.
things like that on this podcast.
Was that shade at me? You did call it yesterday, and I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Who cares?
No, it didn't. I thought you said.
Oh, no, you said Ronaldo would go to Real Madrid.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said.
Nah.
Yeah, I said
All
that.
right, so you're half right.
Half right, half shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Marcus with the games to watch. I'm trying to pick out another one that's really intriguing. I guess the Dortmund matches, maybe just because of Christian Pulisic, or just I guess following American players in general. So Schalke as well.
I'm not watching those Schalke. No.
Well, I'm just saying,
Are you
in
going
the
to watch
interest of following an
Schalke,
American player.
Galatasaray?
No,
Really?
but me.
No.
As far as just following and keeping track of what's going on.
Dortmund Atletico, I kind of left. That would if I would have had to pick 4 matchups, that would have been the 4th. I like the way Atletico Madrid plays. They're perennial contenders in recent years, and then Dortmund. Who knows if they get their act back together? They should get out of this group.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a redemption tour for Dortmund, but it all could kind of blow up in their face. I mean, Monaco's not bad.
That's
And
true.
They kind of have a similar performance as what they had last year.
And
They
Dortmund
could
fell
find themselves-
absolutely flat last year.
Yeah, they could find themselves not advancing.
Weren't they our most disappointing? I think we agreed on that. The most disappointing Champions League team last year,
Yes.
Dortmund.
And I think if we really go back, I feel like we both said that they would advance
Yeah.
through their group.
That's why I
which
don't
was
make
the group
predictions
of death
anymore.
last year. But yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's go through each domestic league. Let's pick a team that you think will fare best. When you look at all the teams that we just saw happen, go through them and pick. I'll have Marcus go first. I want you to run through all of them, and then we can compare to Mark's.
All right, we have in England, out of Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, and Tottenham. No brainer, Manchester City.
Yeah.
Look at their group. Hoffenheim, first time in there. Lyon. I don't even want to. Yeah, Manchester City, no brainer.
Yeah.
Out of La Liga, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Valencia, and Atletico Madrid. I'll go Real Madrid. Other than Roma, I don't see too much resistance there. I don't even know where Victoria or how to pronounce the last team.
It's in the Czech Republic. I looked it up earlier.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, Real Madrid will.
About an hour outside of Prague.
Yeah. It's not even in
Gorgeous.
Prague.
It's not in Prague. It's not Prague.
In Serie A, we've got Roma, Inter Milan, Napoli, and Juventus.
Wait, hold on. I wanted to add one thing about Real Madrid.
Sure.
That it's unfortunate for Roma to be in the same group as Real Madrid, because Real Madrid, I think, will be using the Champions League as like their stage of telling the world, it doesn't matter that Ronaldo is gone. We are still the best team in the world. And if you look at their roster, they might still have the best collection of individual players in the world. And I think this will be where they have the most focus in showcasing that. And I expect them to do very well and do best out of any team out of Spain and advance to at least the semifinals. And that will be my bold prediction of the day, which isn't even that bold, I would say.
I disagree.
I love when this happens.
Real Madrid, Barcelona ran away with the league last year. I think Real Madrid finished third. And that was one of the big reasons that we can't forget that if Real Madrid didn't win the Champions League, Zidane might have been fired instead of winning it and walking away on his own. So I don't think they're going to put all their eggs in the Champions League. And Barcelona, I think they have the most to prove coming out of Spain because they haven't been to the semifinals in, I think last year was the third year running or second year, which came after an unprecedented run of 7 or 8 straight in the semifinals. So I'm going to go with Barcelona on that one.
Okay.
Serie A, Juventus. In Germany, it's got to be Bayern Munich again. And France, PSG, because there's no Nobody that gets near them.
I don't like how easy that was for you.
You'll find it just as easy.
Yeah, no, I can't find much to disagree with, but
I think we differ in Spain. What about Manchester United? Are they gonna?
They haven't looked very good to start their Premier League season.
Well, they've been terrible.
Who'd they lose to? Burnley?
Brighton and Tottenham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't think they'll turn it around?
No, I think that they'll probably actually struggle at Valencia and maybe even home to Valencia, and I think they're going to be fighting to advance out of the group stage, with Juventus being clear to advance out of the group stage.
Wow.
Manchester United hasn't provided much to believe in a long time at this point.
I know.
So,
but business is still booming.
Well, yeah, I mean, that part will always be true. I mean, they're like, I don't know, top 5 most popular team in the world.
Yeah,
so
just valued at $3.1 billion.
Are they the most valuable team? Yeah. So there you go. But it doesn't mean that you automatically win games.
All right.
So.
All right. Any final points, little pieces that you guys want to touch upon before we move on from this part?
What's the most obscure team in the group stage to you? Sorry to jump in.
No, that's exactly
go
what I
with,
wanted to do.
Victoria. How do you pronounce that? PLZEN?
You have to ask a Czech person.
Yeah,
it's very obscure.
I don't want to say I've never heard of that club, but yeah, I don't think I've ever heard the name of it spoken.
I have to agree, and I thought that was just because as a Roma supporter, I was drawn to them because they're in the same group. Mm-hmm. But you look around, and I mean, there's a lot of familiar names, and even the not familiar faces in the Champions League. You've kind of heard of the club before. I had never heard of this club.
Yeah, young boys. They played Liverpool a few years ago in the Europa League, and I remember them doing okay. But that was then. This is now.
This Victoria team could be a good vacation destination for those teams traveling. You go to Prague for a few days, you catch the train to the game, back to Prague. You probably don't want to stick around.
Were you just in Prague?
No.
Where did you go this summer?
This summer?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I was in Amsterdam.
Oh, okay. Well, completely different.
So long ago, it feels like.
Yeah.
Mark, that attitude that you just said about going on vacation is probably why you never became a professional soccer player. Yeah.
You might have a point.
All right. Well, enough talking about overseas. I feel like every time I come on and we talk soccer, we talk about other countries. So
you just asked me where I went on vacation.
No, I know, but we just talked about a bunch of other countries as well. It's been the whole first part of our show, if you've been following along, Mark. But now we get to kind of talk about the U.S.
You are supposed to be the peacekeeper.
I am keeping the peace.
Yeah,
Mark and I work together too much.
If you turn on Mark, what am I supposed to do?
True. But Clint Dempsey, he retired USA soccer legend, and he even has New England ties. So for us here in Boston at NESN, it's close to home, which a lot of soccer podcasts, a lot of soccer shows, we don't get to say. Mm-hmm. So initial reactions from you guys when you found out about the retirement?
My initial reaction was I was shocked. Now, you guys might or might not know, I follow soccer news closely.
Yes.
If something like this came up, I would have, usually I have a sniff of it 24 hours before the news breaks or the announcement. I heard about this Dempsey thing when it happened. A former colleague of ours who now works at the Seattle Sounders said they're going to make a big announcement. She gave me about 3 hours heads up. I didn't know what it was, didn't have a thing. But Clint Dempsey, being arguably the greatest U.S. soccer player ever, him retiring, my first reaction was, what the hell was the media doing? You know, I did a little background, a little more reading, and he hadn't been in the lineup for a couple, let's call it a couple months. Yeah, we're in the end of August, since early July. Hadn't practiced for the last couple weeks. Now I was thinking, had that happened in the Premier League, where, you know, a big player, a major player at a big team was all of a sudden frozen out, or you know, hadn't been practicing, yeah, we'd have known about that. It would have been, you know, headline news for days and weeks. Clint Dempsey, arguably the greatest U.S. soccer player ever, just retired out of the blue in the middle of the season. No retirement tour, no tearful press conference, no nothing. Just an announcement. So yeah, shocked, completely shocked, and disappointed in not having gotten that story before it happened.
Are you disappointed that we didn't get any sort of farewell game, even just a singular game, let alone a tour?
I would have liked Clint Dempsey to have a farewell tour, like Kobe Bryant, like yeah.
I feel like
even if he wasn't playing, well, that's the thing. That's what we'll get into, is his personality and his character is not. That's just not it. Yeah.
I guess initially I was surprised, but you know, not too long after, it's not that surprising. It's not that shocking.
Looks
because
35.
You know, I hadn't heard his name in anything really in over a year, it felt like. And the last significant news I heard about him was his health concerns and his heart.
Well, then he came back and won Comeback Player of the Year last season, took Seattle to MLS Cup. The team was struggling when he was playing at the beginning of the season. They signed some players. He's been out of the lineup, and poof.
Yeah.
It's gone.
But it just kind of, you know, sparks the rabbit hole search of top Clint Dempsey goals, and you just kind of look back at maybe U.S. tournaments that he was a part of, or U.S. teams that he was a part of in certain tournaments, and how those tournaments went. And it seemed like he was just always a positive impact on whatever team he was on.
Yeah.
And I guess at least in his heyday, whenever the U.S. was playing a friendly, or even maybe like a qualifier in like the early stages, if you didn't see Clint Dempsey in the lineup, your excitement for the game just immediately went down.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up kind of Googling his best goals and a positive impact on the field. I saw circulating on Twitter, and Marcus, you kind of touched upon this, so much of his personality, kind of gifs. Is it GIFs or GIFs? I go back and forth. GIFs, of his personality. That was what I saw a lot of on social media.
Yeah. Clint Dempsey had, I guess, what is called nowadays swag.
Great word.
Had it for, I've been saying this for years, publicly and privately. I think it's important that U.S. soccer represents all of America, and I've been saying Clint Dempsey adds a much needed dose of black culture to U.S. soccer. It's the way he walked, he talked, he played in a Latino style that he developed playing in Latin leagues on the fields of East Texas. But, you know, into hip hop, freestyle rapper. There's a great thread on Twitter talking about when Clint Dempsey went to Kingston, Jamaica for a friendly, and the way the people in Kingston, Trenchtown, received him. You know, kind of like a hero, because he was playing for Tottenham, and Tottenham has that area of London has a large Jamaican expat community. So Tottenham's huge in Jamaica. Clint Dempsey shows up, and he was like a rock star. So yeah, I mean, Clint Dempsey had this character, which was like, you know, and then there was also I put this in a rundown, an ode to late bloomers. He was never, like, I knew about Landon Donovan when he was probably 15 or 16.
Right.
Clint Dempsey was drafted by the Revolution He was a U.S. youth international, but you couldn't have told me then that he would go on to become this player that we're going to devote half a podcast to. He had something in him that was part of his upbringing, his sister dying, him driving to, or him and his family, making this commitment to drive 3 hours each way to Dallas twice a week for high-level training. And then it was a fearlessness about him that just took him to the top of U.S. soccer's heat.
Yeah,
I feel like it's funny watching this because Marcus sounds so taken back by this, and Mark's kind of like, meh.
Yeah, I mean, I
think it's a huge deal that he has retired, and I mean, to the fearlessness that you were talking about, I think that kind of maybe contributed to his success in England because
that drove him, yeah.
Especially at that time, maybe more so than if an American were to go there now. There's just such a stigma on Americans, players or coaches, and a total lack of respect, which probably helped him in being there.
He
was the perfect guy to be
when he was at Fulham. I'll never forget that in his first few seasons, he played 6+ seasons there. His first few seasons, there was a coaching change almost every year for the first 3 or 4 years. And he would come in, he got there in January, works his way into the starting lineup. They change the coach puts him on the bench, works his way back into the starting lineup. They change the coach, new coach puts him on his bench, works his way back into the starting lineup. Clint Dempsey, other players like that happen to, they get benched and they're never heard from again. He scored 72 goals in the Premier League, most by an American. That's, that says it all about him. And then there was that goal in the Europa League. That was the round of 16 where I would say that's his greatest ever goal. He took Fulham. Fulham's a team in West London that has no business getting to the Europa League final ever. He took them, he was maybe their top scorer that season in the Premier League, maybe not in the Europa League, but there was one goal that he hits a no-look chip into the far corner. I thought it was against Buffon. It wasn't against Buffon, but still, that took him to the quarterfinals, gave him all sorts of momentum. And that was his best ever goal, I think.
Well, you bring up Landon Donovan, so when you look at those two players and every other U.S. men's player, who do you think is the best? I mean, I think I know your answer, but...
What do you think my answer is?
I think your answer is Clint Dempsey.
I think it is too.
I was firmly on Team Landon until yesterday, and then I listened to a podcast that our friend in Seattle produced with Eddie Johnson, who was Clint Dempsey's former teammate in Seattle and Fulham and U.S. national team, and close friend, who, he really emphasized that when Clint Dempsey went to England and things didn't go his way, he was like, no, I'm staying here and I'm making this Premier League money, because that was always a big thing. Clint Dempsey just wanted to take care of his family playing soccer. And I learned this on the podcast through Eddie Johnson. And Eddie Johnson said, his success overseas gives him the edge over Landon, because Landon, at age 19, came home. Now, to his credit, Landon still fulfilled his potential while playing at home. Dempsey did it while playing in unfamiliar confines. So now I'm going back to a tie again. I think I need some more time and distance from this to really pick a side. But, they're both tied, 57 goals, U.S. national team record. Yeah, give me a couple weeks and I'll mull it over some more.
I guess I have a unique answer to this that I kind of separated into two different categories. That Clint Dempsey, I think, is the best field player, American field player, but that Landon Donovan had the bigger, sort of better, albeit very slightly bigger and better, United States men's national team career, specifically for the men's national team, which I do feel like is a big enough thing to kind of put it in its own category. because I think that's how most people identify with Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan. So I do think that Donovan has the slight edge while playing for the U.S., but that Clint Dempsey overall was the better soccer player. And Landon might have even been just a better goal scorer, but Clint Dempsey maybe brought more to a team, like had incredible goal scoring ability, but was also just a better guy to have on your team, like at a club level, than just having Landon Donovan.
I would say Landon more skillful, more maybe better overall player if you look at all the attributes. Dempsey more of a winner and better for a team. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
X factor kind of thing.
Yes. Always there in the big moment. Yeah.
All right, let's look at the U.S. men's national team right now. Do they have a next Dempsey in your eyes?
We won't know for some time because Dempsey's story is kind of a strength in adversity. It's kind of his whole life is overcoming adversity. And, we kind of don't know there are a lot of talented young players, but Clint Dempsey, when he was 20, was a shaggy-haired rookie playing in New England. I'd been watching Revolution games at the time. One of the guys that I watched games with went to a friendly that I did not attend, and I remember him telling me, he was like, watch out for this kid Dempsey, because he scored against Sporting Lisbon, big Portuguese team, big following in this region. Most of the fans there were rooting for them. Dempsey scores, and this was a month or two into his rookie season, and from what I heard, kind of looks at the crowd and was like, yeah, this is my house. So he showed that chip on his shoulder he has. And we don't really know who's coming a long way. I do think Christian Pulisic will obliterate the record that Donovan and Dempsey share. But
great word choice.
Yeah.
I think, he'll definitely end up being the best player in men's national team history when he's done. But, I mean, there is just kind of a solid list of young players for the U.S. that you don't know how they're going to work out. You talk about, like, Timothy Weah and Weston McKennie.
Yeah.
And obviously
Timothy Weah's father was a FIFA World Player of the Year and is now the president of Liberia. You can't really compare that to Dempsey.
Right. Well, I think what will ultimately happen is that Dempsey and Donovan, I guess, will be the figureheads of the sort of USA soccer, if all things go well, sort of this era before maybe it reached another level.
Yeah, the last 15 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of these guys were maybe these holdovers that got us to the point that we are now, and without them, there would be no Christian Pulisic, there would be no Weston McKennie.
Yeah. And I saw from the
that's
Twitter
the legacy.
reactions of a lot of the players that are now in their early to mid-20s kind of establishing themselves as pros and on Team USA, they were all like, you were the reason why you were the inspiration.
Well, now that we're saying it like that with everything with his character and his personality, like while Landon Donovan was great, there was rare times when Donovan did something besides actual skill in playing and scoring a goal, anything, even like within a celebration or like an interview or anything that made you really like him. But Clint Dempsey did that a lot. And
Dempsey,
I love Landon Donovan.
More of a star.
Yeah,
Clint
he's just
Dempsey.
a straight star.
Yeah, more star power. Donovan, soccer player from Southern California, dime a dozen. There's a lot of them.
So yeah, I guess that's sort of their legacies. They helped shepherd in that next generation of U.S. soccer players.
Do you both have a particular favorite moment from Dempsey's career as a whole? Was yours the goal?
No.
No?
No. Mine was in Copa America 2016. I got to interview Dempsey in the mix zone. I don't know if you've ever been part of a soccer mix zone, but it's a scrum. It's a reporter's scrum. And Dempsey was passing by, and I shout out to him. I was like, hey, Clint. Now, at that moment in time, Dempsey was on a tear in Copa America, scoring goals. He was one of the tournament's top 2 or 3 scorers. And this was maybe halfway through, like at the end of the group stage. But he had just been stripped of the U.S. national team captaincy because he had kind of went ballistic on a referee in MLS a month or 2 prior. So, doing my job, I asked him, I said, hey, is your good form part of, is it a reaction to you losing the captaincy? And he kind of looked at me and, was searching for a hint of disrespect, and there was no disrespect. It was just a, professional moment. And he was like, no. And then he says, well, look at my goals record. Everywhere I've gone and everywhere I've been, I've scored goals. I scored goals at Fulham, scored goals at the U.S. national team. It was, he basically was like, I'm Clint effing Dempsey. He didn't have to say that, but that's what I took to it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And, I said, thanks. And he's like, all right, thank you. And, I looked at him like, I only asked this question because I have to. And I think he understood that I had to ask the question because that's what the news cycle was demanding. But his answer was just, maybe you had to be there to see it. And it wasn't arrogant. It was very matter of fact. He was like, look at my goals record. I'm Clint Dempsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2+ years ago.
I don't have, no specific memory sticks out, but I just always think of him dancing.
Yeah.
So.
Such a Mark answer.
It's like he's, in my mind, I'm not picturing a goal being scored, but I am picturing him on the field. A goal has just been scored.
He scored against Ghana. And you know that dance he did? That's what was going on in the streets at the time. And when he did that, I was like, how does Clint Dempsey know that? Clint Dempsey keeps his ear to the ground.
I like it. All right. Well, you guys, big Clint Dempsey fans.
Yeah.
I think you guys are both sad to see him go, but excited that he's had such a great career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In all.
And still surprised that it happened right now.
Still upset that our good friend in Seattle did not give you more of a heads up.
Yeah.
She probably gave him all the heads up that
she could.
He had. Yeah, she could.
But Eddie Johnson, his good friend and former teammate, did say Clint Dempsey was so competitive, he's not the type to sit on the bench and just ride out the last few months of the season.
Yeah.
The moment he believes that he can't contribute like he's used to, that's it.
I also think it's important to note that if you're an athlete, you're doing it a lot for the money, but you're also doing it because you enjoy playing that said sport. So I'm sure for him, once it didn't get fun anymore, there's no point.
He's been battling injuries. He had the heart problem. Been the last couple of years been tough on him.
All right, well, 2 games this weekend. Which ones are you guys looking forward to?
Mark, are you watching Milan and Roma tomorrow?
I will be, and it starts at 2 p.m. Roma is off to an okay start. Milan is off to an okay start. And I will be in the office, and I'm kind of excited about it because it's going to be a Friday. Boss isn't in the office.
Courtney's working from home.
Courtney's working from home, and I'll just kind of, get a nice little corner for myself and just really hunker down. It's gonna be fun.
And we get ESPN Plus.
Do we have a login? There you go.
Ask me Saturday.
Okay. And
I will be watching Watford against Tottenham, 11 a.m. Sunday. Watford are the surprise package of the Premier League so far. Won 3 out of 3. Tottenham has also won 3 out of 3. And they just beat Manchester United at Manchester United. So something's got to give. This one will take place at Watford's Vicarage Road, and I'll be rooting for them.
Me too. Go Watford.
Go Watford.
Well, I think that will do it for this wonderful episode of the NESN Soccer Podcast. Guys, thanks so much for having me on.
And thank you for being here.
I learned a lot.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you. But you can follow along with Marcus on Twitter at MKOmard. You can also follow along with Mark DiBenedetto at MarkDBenz. But I don't recommend it because he doesn't follow me on Twitter.
Oh.
So we just had an argument actually the other day about it. But keep it locked in, NESN.
How can they listen to the podcast? You can follow the podcast on iTunes by searching NESN.
Well, here we go.
And this is for the people listening on YouTube. If you're doing that, stop. Go to iTunes, search NESN, follow the NESN podcast page.
And rate and review.
Rate and review,
yeah.
comments, tweet at us. Sorry, Courtney.
Tweet at Marcus over Mark. All right, well, and keep it locked in, NESN.com. We've got all your soccer news. Thanks for listening Thanks for listening, guys. Whew, today's my Friday. But thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Boy, I tell you so. Come on!